Just last week, James Gunn's Superman was released, and many early reactions praised the film's optimistic tone, successful reinnovation of the character, and strong performances, particularly from David Corenswet as Superman and Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. Many critics and fans have also said the film was a promising start for the new DC universe. It feels like the All-Star Superman comic come to life in the best way possible. With all the greatness the film clearly carries, there's still a certain demographic within DC's fan base that strongly disagrees. In 2013, Zack Snyder's Man of Steel film released. Many critics and fans to this day still praise the film's ambitious tone, compelling visuals, casting, and performances from Henry Cavill as Superman and Michael Shannon as General Zod. But the majority of DC's audience and just general fans felt the film lacked the hopeful spirit tied to the character. It feels more like a somber destruction than a classic Superman tale, like a reimagined Clark Kent, which isn't a bad idea. But most fans went to see the movie expecting the Superman they know and love, and instead got a darker, twisted version. In this video, I'm going to break down and talk about what exactly Snyder did wrong that Gunn did right. So let's dive in. In 2013, Zack Snyder's Man of Steel was released. The film starred Henry Cavill as Clark Kent, aka Superman. The project performed successfully at the box office, earning back $670 million in its theatrical run. The film was received pretty well by DC's audience, and I use the term pretty well very loosely, as many fans and critics were severely disappointed because the film lacked real character development, the severely darker tone, way too much destruction, and Superman killing Zod, breaking his no-kill rule and under no real practical pressure at all. Snyder wanted DC's core audience to look at Superman in a different light, as more of a humanized figure, with more flaws, instead of a purely idolized symbol of hope, which basically goes against everything Superman as a character stands for. I'm not saying he's not supposed to have flaws, and he actually gives a really nice speech in the new movie, making him feel closer to normalized humanity. But Superman doesn't let himself fall apart at the expense of others, especially if other lives are at stake. And Snyder leaned as far away as possible from this idea, pushing this Superman into a whole new light. James Gunn's Superman released last week on Friday, kicking off the new DCU, which of course includes rewriting Superman, which James Gunn has successfully done. This version of Superman couldn't be more different from the last. David Corenswet's Superman has morals he will not break, under any circumstance. He believes villains have a chance at redemption. And no matter what, he sees the good in everyone. He's exactly what the character needs to be. This version is a symbol of hope and compassion. And for many viewers, it feels like the Superman they have been waiting years to see. A character that fully embraces his humanity without being held at a godlike status. His actions feel very genuine. His optimism feels earned. And every moment on screen reminds audiences why this hero has been respected for generations. This version of Superman is already being credited as the second best adaptation after Christopher Reeve's Superman, leaving people excited and confident in where the DC universe is heading next, with many already calling it one of the most faithful and inspiring takes on the character in modern film. It's a return to the foundation that first made Superman an iconic character. When Henry Cavill first appeared in 2013's Man of Steel, he wasn't stepping into the bright, optimistic world people associated with Christopher Reeve's. He was stepping into Zack Snyder's version, a modern world where heroes weren't worshipped. Instead, they're questioned. Clark Kent wasn't a nostalgic farm boy with a smile. He was a man raised to hide, constantly torn between two identities. Every choice he made felt heavy and almost tragic. Even saving people carried consequences, and you could feel that weight in his character. The suit itself told a story, darker blues, almost no red, and a symbol that doesn't scream hope as much as it does realism. For many fans, that Superman spoke to a time when the world felt uncertain, or even fractured. Yes, he was powerful, but he was also conflicted and isolated as a protector who was never allowed to be at peace. Cavill didn't give us a simple Superman. He gave us a man who was still learning how to believe in himself. Now, taking on the role of Superman, David Corenswet feels like a breath of fresh air from the Superman movie as a whole and what the future could look like. His Superman isn't weighed down by the responsibility of the world. He's still stepping into a world that's flawed, but he's ready to carry that weight. The suit is brighter and closer to the comics, almost like a love letter to that classic era of heroism. that feels very deliberate, exactly like Superman from the comics. We don't see him hiding from the world, we see him eager to be part of it, walking through life with the weight of the world on his shoulders like it's easy. Even before the film released, you could sense the tone shift, less about carrying guilt and more about carrying hope. This Superman feels like an innovation to a bigger dream, to believe in the good again, and to remember why the world looks up to him as the symbol in the first place. When you look at Henry Cavill's Superman and David Corenswet's version side by side, you start to see more than just two performances. You see two moments in time, two very different versions of the character. Cavill's Superman was forged in uncertainty. He carried our doubts, our fears, and our questions about what it even means to do the right thing in a messy and broken world. That version teaches audiences that even heroes can struggle, and that sometimes looks like the reason that now half the city is destroyed. But beyond that, a hero that wants to do right in the world, but less perfected and more of doing what he can. But Corenswet's Superman feels like a missing puzzle piece fitting perfectly into an empty space. His world is pointing towards hope and optimism, a detailed reminder that light still matters. The way he carries himself, the classic suit, and who this universe is building his character up to be. Confidence without arrogance. As I said, it feels like a deliberate return to the roots of the character. He doesn't look like a man burdened by his power. He looks like someone eager to share it, someone ready to lift others alongside him. And that shift is far from the past versions, like a sense of wonder we've been missing. David Corenswet isn't just putting on a cape and claiming to be Superman. He's stepping into a different cultural moment. Audiences today are coming off years of darker superhero stories and real-world exhaustion, craving something brighter and something sincere. That's exactly what James Gunn seems to be shaping, a Superman who feels timeless yet alive again. Look at the visual language already surrounding the film. The suit is vivid with a bright, almost vintage blue. The classic trunks and the softer cape fabric that moves like something out of a Golden Age comic panel. Even in behind-the-scene glimpses, there's a warmth in his expression, a noticeable confidence in his body language, the tone, the color palette, and the way the camera seems to catch him at all angles. It's a shift from burden to innovation. This Superman is designed to make you believe that heroism isn't just about enduring darkness, and hero stories can be told in light. But behind every Superman is a divided crowd. And right now, there's a real conversation between Snyder fans and Gunn fans. For over a decade, Henry Cavill's Superman has lived under a microscope. Snyder fans rallied behind him, seeing in Cavill a version of Superman that wasn't afraid to wrestle with hard questions, to feel like an outsider, to show that even gods can doubt themselves. They praised the weight in his performance and the mythic tones of Snyder's visuals. But even within those circles, some admitted the films didn't always give him room to be the symbol of hope they wanted. Outside of that fanbase, others criticized Cavill's era for being too dark and too detached from the charm and optimism they associated with Superman. Now, with James Gunn's Superman being top priority, Corenswet is already drawing early reactions from both sides. Gunn supporters are celebrating the bright colors and classical suit, and the promise of a lighter tone, finally a Superman that feels familiar. But some Snyder loyalists are cautious, even defensive, worried that in chasing optimism, this new film might flatten the depth that Cavill brought. That's the challenge. Corenswet isn't just inheriting a role, he's inheriting a conversation, a decade of passion and debate, and he has to win over both, the ones that still believe in Cavill's Superman and the ones ready to believe in something new. When we talk about Superman, it's easy to focus on the big moments that define him, but the truth is, half of what makes him so compelling isn't Superman at all, it's Clark Kent. Henry Cavill's interpretation leaned heavily into the Superman side of that dual identity. His Clark felt very distant from the character, almost ghost-like in his own life, a man always aware that he didn't fully belong anywhere. In Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, we barely saw him soak in being Clark. He moved through the world quietly and cautiously, almost like he was protecting everyone from himself. That choice fit Snyder's tone, a Clark Kent shaped by secrecy and burden, someone who never quite got to live freely in his own skin. With David Corenswet, something is very different. His Clark Kent seems accepting to step back into the spotlight, not just as a disguise, but as a vibrant part of who he is. James Gunn has talked about exploring Clark as a reporter, as a co-worker, and as someone who walks through the world with warmth and charm. And the visuals ultimately present classic energy. A man who isn't hiding so much as he is playfully blending in. If Calvin's Clark felt like a shadow behind Superman, Corenswet's Clark looks ready to feel like a full character. Someone who reminds us that as much of the hero that he is, he's also a man from Kansas trying to live a simple life in a complicated world. Looking back at Henry Cavill's run, one of the biggest criticisms is that his Superman never truly got the character development he deserved. In Man of Steel, we watch Clark discover his powers, learn his origins, and make the choice to reveal himself to the world. But after that turning point, his journey felt very stalled. In Batman v Superman and Justice League, he's treated more like a symbol or a plot device than a fully evolving character. We rarely see Clark Kent adjusting to his new life, or building relationships in a way that change him. Instead, he stays distant, burdened, often defined by how others view him rather than how he grows. For many fans, Cavill's Superman feels like a character who was always on the edge of something greater but never given the chance to actually get there. And I'm not biased to the fact that you can argue James Gunn's new Superman doesn't have too much character development throughout his film either. But he doesn't really need to. The difference between the Superman film and Man of Steel, Clark didn't know he was destined to be Superman. He wasn't even 100% sure about his powers, so when he became Superman, that was supposed to be a dynamic shift within his character. Superman in this new movie has been who he is for 3 years. So it really is just more about maintaining his current presence and overall good character dynamic, to make sure he still remains Superman throughout the film. Now, if DC gets cleared for a second film, which looking at the success of this one, they likely will, Clark Kent will need to lean into more character development, because it's not just the first film now. If we just watch another variation of the Superman film, nobody would want to see it and DC will fall again slowly. When you pull all of this together, you start to see that these Supermen aren't just separated by actors. They're shaped by the visions behind them. Zack Snyder built a world where Superman was a question mark, a conflicted outsider trying to find his place. James Gunn is shaping one where Superman is already an answer, a steady presence built on hope. In between these versions lives a memory of Christopher Reeves, a gold standard for many audiences and generations, a Superman who embodied warmth and optimism without losing depth. Cavill's Clark never got the full arc he deserved, often caught between moments of greatness without enough space to grow into them. Corinne Sweat's Clark begins from a place of confidence, already living the role, though his deeper growth will depend on where future films take him. The fan conversations, the split between Snyder loyalists and Gunn supporters, and those who still hold Reeve in their hearts all prove one thing: Superman evolves with every storyteller, every era, and every generation that looks up to the hero.
Gentlemen, this man needs help. Well, I certainly hope this little incident hasn't put you off flying, miss. Statistically speaking, of course, it's still the safest way to travel.
Right. Wait! Who are you?
A friend. Bye.
If you made it this far in the video, you either agree with what I'm saying or you're preparing to write a hate comment. Either way, go ahead, like and subscribe so I can keep pointing out DC's mistakes and so you can keep commenting about how much you disagree. Until then, have a wonderful day.